We have been tested before as a city very near the site of today's tragedy, and New Yorkers do not give in the face of these kinds of actions. We'll respond as we always do. We will be undeterred.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio says that the city will be undeterred by yesterday's terror attack. But what can be done to help NYPD officers fight terror in the future? Here to weigh in on this is U.S. Army veteran and former NYPD Lieutenant Dr. Darrin Porcher. Dr. Porcher, great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Unfortunate circumstances.
I know. What can we learn from this?
Well, this is a teachable moment for law enforcement because we look at the attacks that happened in Nice as well as Barcelona, and it was the vehicle attacks were consistent. So when we ramp up our fortifications here, we want to look at the watershed moment in a couple of months ago in Times Square where we had the car that ran into several pedestrians. However, the balance prevented that person from creating further carnage. So how do we protect a city like New York? One of my recommendations is the use of drones. Technological innovations in law enforcement are something that we need to utilize. So a drone is a cheap but effective means to gain that intelligence and shoot it to, I should say shoot it, but direct it to law enforcement to respond to these types of areas. Because when we look at what happened, I want to say in August, we had an ISIS photo that was put online for that same area. Had a drone been unknown of a situation like this, we could have flown a drone over that area. So it's just not omnipresence, but getting that information to the effective team to counter whatever the threat would be.
Would the drones, would they have helped in this situation?
Well, what the drone would have done is it would have provided a level of counterintelligence for what was actually happening. And so when the carnage started, we could have had a quicker response. I mean, I totally applaud the officer for stepping in and doing what he did. Another thing, especially the bus driver, I mean, a combination of the two, those are true heroes. But it goes back to, we live in a city of 8.5 million people, and we only have a police department of 38,000. 38,000 officers can only do but so much. So we need that additional assistance, and therefore we need to deploy those resources accordingly.
I am surprised you mentioned they're called the balance. Is that what they're called?
Balance.
Those concrete
right, exactly.
studs that prevent a car from jumping over into the bike lane. I'm surprised we don't have those along that highway.
Since that incident, the NYPD is doing a greater proliferation of these balance throughout the area of Manhattan. So it's going to take time, but this is a process that's already in play.
All right. Thank you for being with us, and thanks for serving.